Welcome. This is Happy Healthy Cows, the show where we chat with experts about all things that keep cows comfortable and happy. We'll talk freestall bedding, manure management, barn design, ventilation, and all the details that make a big difference. After all, comfortable cows are the foundation of a healthy herd and successful dairy production. When cows are happy, dairy farms run better. I'm your host, Renee Schrift, and I'm with McLanahan Corporation. And today we have Dr. Gordie Jones, Gordie, with us today to just dive in more into what cows want you to know about freestall management. And I think this is a perfect topic for Gordie because he has such a vast experience around the globe, working with so many great dairymen around the globe and here in the United States as well, and had a chance to design and run his own dairy as well. So I wanted to welcome Gordie to our podcast today. Thank you for joining us.
Renee, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for thinking of me.
When I think about this topic, I definitely think about conversations with you, and I know they're not all the time. And when I see you at a conference like National Mastitis Conference or things like that, I always get good tidbits from you as far as the past, your experience, the stories. I love the stories. We all love the stories, and the examples that you can share that just lend itself to this topic so well. I always look at it this way, the cows don't get to choose their environment. The producers have to create that environment. And I think we have to remember that all the time. It's just like anything in life when it comes to family, other livestocks, we as people create those environments, have to maintain those environments. Those cows don't get to choose where they're born. So we have to constantly come back to this topic, I think, and make sure that we're doing things right.
Yeah. That reminds me, there's a little story a long, long time ago in the 90s, maybe even in the 80s. A dairyman married a young lady from the city, and this dairy was not a cow comfort dairy. And the young lady from the city said to me one time, as I was visiting the dairy, she said, "I wish the cows could talk." And I thought to myself, on this particular dairy, you're probably grateful they can't talk because it was such a bad dairy. I've been since 1986. I've been talking about cow comfort. I wrote for AABP, the American Association of Bovine Practitioners. I wrote a paper on the veterinarian's opportunity to improve the cow's environment, and it was the first paper ever that used the words cow comfort. And so since 1986, I've been speaking on cow comfort wherever someone will listen. And the fun thing about cow comfort is the more comfortable we make a dairy for cows, the more they produce and perform. She just responds so well to what we do that it's just a fun thing to do. And they respond immediately.
That response immediately, I mean, that as far as like housing and getting a cow to respond, what are some of those key things that you always keep in mind and that you bring to the forefront when we're talking about specifically freestalls and sand? Because of course McLanahan, we're about the sand. We always are about sand bedding and creating a comfortable bed for the cows, and then taking that bedding and then trying to get it back in the stall at the highest quality possible because of the recycling that we can offer. But that's where we really dive into is really the barns and the stalls, and figuring out how to make that bedding always better, making sure we have good quality going back in there. But what are some of those things on the forefront of your mind that you like to talk to dairy producers about? And then we can explore that a little bit more.
So as a veterinarian, a nutritionist, and a dairy farm manager, I spent 5 years managing my own dairy. As I walk on anybody's dairy, I think of three things. There are three places that a cow makes money for us on a dairy, if you will. And that's the purpose of dairying. Number one, she stand to milk and she makes money. Stand to eat and drink, she makes money. And laying down, she makes money. She makes milk. In the early days, we knew that was true. Today's research has proven from the people in Spain and the people at the New Miner Institute, every extra hour in bed is worth about 3.7 to 4.5 pounds of milk. The Novus Feed Company has the Cow Comfort Girls that go out and have evaluated more than 2,000 dairies, and they'll say in the pre-fresh group and in the fresh pen, every extra hour in bed will make more than 5 pounds of milk. So it's how does she get to food, and how does she get to bed, and how can she get into bed? When I spoke at NMC, the National Mastitis Council, this year, I talked about better beds for cows. If we make the bed softer, more easy to get into, and where she can lie straight and comfortable, she does that, and she performs better. And one of the beauties of all of this is the response is immediate. And while we were at NMC, Dr. Rick Grant, retired from the New Minor Institute, added an extra piece in there that as she's laying down, her digestion is better. Her digestion is more complete than if she's standing up. So it was an added piece to that cow comfort piece that was just fun to add to the information we now have on cow comfort. As you refer to sand is wonderful for cows. There is no cow doesn't like sand. Everything else on the dairy hates sand, it seems, including dairymen. But cows love sand, and it forgives so many sins. So I'm a big advocate from the 80s, from the stuff that Andrew Weidel and Bill Bickert did at Michigan State to where we're at today.
Right now, just coming out of winter, and just traveling around and working with some facilities and getting through the winter months with these systems that they have. I mean, when I get the chance to walk through the barns and all of the cold weather, the ice, things get slick. That sand is really important, even just from that standpoint. And getting these cows, like if they're moving fast or, trying to get to a parlor, making turns, corners, it's just amazing to me. Sometimes I take for granted the fact that the sand, and I actually personally like it too, was when I'm walking through a facility, I'm looking for a patch of sand so I don't like slipping, you know what? So
Yep.
happens after that. So I myself am looking for that. But that sand just offers so much traction as far as like getting to and from the parlor. And it just makes a world of difference in some of these barns, one bedding over the other. It just seems like cows are calmer. They just have a different attitude altogether getting to the parlor.
They experience just so much more confidence on a dairy that has sand. And as you know, we lose probably somewhere from 35 to 55 pounds of sand per stall per day comes out, and it just increases the confidence a cow has in getting to bed, to feed, and to the parlor.
Yep. So just kind of going in through that segue there, as far as getting to the parlor, I love some of the aspects that you bring and the design of some of the experience you had with your building your dairy out with the flow, the traffic flow. And that's all part of comfort and getting cows to and from parlors. And I was just kind of hoping for this podcast too, you could maybe expand a little bit on that because I think that what you have to tell there and how you design that, even on your own dairy, is just, it's really good information.
Thank you. We, at Central Sands, we made a design feature that was not for the cows. It was for machinery. So we wanted to isolate a pen so that as we bedded the cows with sand, we could turn the machinery around at Main Street and keep it in a pen and keep it independent. So that meant that we made Main Street very wide. In fact, we were 32 to 34 feet wide for Main Street, so I could both turn the vacuum around to pick up manure, and I could turn the bedding machinery around and stay independent in one pen. And that large Main Street headed to the parlor was done not for the cows, but done for machinery. Well, it turns out that as I open a 14-foot gate in the front and a 14-foot gate in the back, I opened 28 feet of gate into a 32-foot wide Main Street, and my cows, a pen of 400 cows, flow to the parlor in under 6 minutes. And it turns out they flow without running, without going through a narrow spot where they get faster, splash, and make that. I was helping design a dairy in England in the mid-2000s, and they were not happy that a large dairy was going to be built in England, so they came over to evaluate my cows because it was a factory farm. And when they scored the udders at my dairy, they scored them as the cleanest cows they'd ever scored. And I was saluting the values, if you will, of sand, of beds that laid straight. And it turns out that the third thing was that my cows flowed to the parlor without ever splashing, without spreading manure on their udders. And so they had clean udders, and they get delivered in under 6 minutes to the parlor. And so as you're looking at new facilities today, I would tell you, whether you have one-way traffic or two-way traffic to the parlor, make it at least as wide as the two opening gates from your pens. So as you open a 14 and a 12-foot gate, make Main Street 26 feet delivering to the parlor. The cows will move smoother, faster. Slow is fast, and they will not splash, and they stay twice as clean. So that was one huge design factor that we got accidentally right for the cows because we did it for the machinery.
Yeah, these vac trucks take a lot of room and turning around, and it's probably more efficient, like you're saying, to just like with the cows and the traffic, but more efficient to design it so the vac truck can turn around and go right back out the same alley, or that they're delivering the manure to a system that's right outside the door, and that way they can get back, especially on these big farms where I don't know. I've seen it before where there's actually two vac trucks. I mean, you can't get it all in one, depending on how large these pens are getting because of the parlor sizes that are growing. So the pens are getting a little bit bigger. The parlors are definitely growing in the number of cows on a carousel. So it just, there's more manure.
Yeah.
In those
Exactly.
alleys. So it's a challenge getting them clean and getting them clean the right way. And so as far as that, that's going to increase the spend, right, in the facility. So there's more concrete, there's more barn. You feel as though that is worth it, like at the end of the day. Like, not because it's like just coincidental that it's great for the cows, but like it's definitely worth the spend.
Oh, no question. It's smoother cow flow. Cows are less excitable when they come into the parlor. They're not having to jam through a narrow alley coming out of two 14-foot gates into a 12-foot alley, where the same thing we do with water, with air, as we narrow the pipes down, the pressure gets hot, faster and hotter. Same thing happens to cows. As you come out of two 12-foot gates into a 10-foot alley, the cows are jostling for position. They're splashing. They're trying to get past each other. Making a big main street is one huge design feature that we've incorporated now across the world. And everybody who's done it has said this has been well worth their time and expense to do.
Let's just go back to the stall again. Where the cow's going to spend hopefully a lot of time lying in her stall. Over the years of your consulting and your expertise, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of different iterations of this and a lot of different sizes, and just, even an inch makes a difference one way, shape, or form. But as far as today goes, like what standards do you continue to uphold and promote that you feel as though works the best for cows and stall design?
So that's a loaded question. Cows have to enter the stall. They have to be able to enter the stall. So first of all, we have to have the neck rail in the right position so our cow can enter the stall, and she can get into the stall and take command. Once she's taken command, she has to lay down. So then we have to have no lunge space obstructions in the front. Any lunge space obstruction can negate your milk by 2 to 3 hours of laying time, which will cost you more than 5 pounds of milk. So now she has to be able to lay down, and then it should be cushion enough, 6 inches of deep bedding material, preferably sand, where she can lay down and take all the normal positions of a cow. As I spoke at NMC this year, it was my opportunity to give a talk on building better freestalls. We know that when we had stalls against walls, we had to offer side lunge so the cow could still get up. And that was a big innovation, to offer side lunge. Now, as a cow faces another cow, let me get my herd together. Now, as a cow faces another cow, I don't need side lunge. I need forward lunge to let them lay down. And so no lunge obstruction in the front. Well, if we've taken out the lunge obstruction in the front, we should have a design that now allows her only to lunge forward instead of three options. Only forward. If she can lunge to either side, she really doesn't lunge to the side. She lays diagonal. And if she lays diagonally in the bed, she will dirty the bed. And that adds to soiling the bed, whether it's sand or deep solids or even a mattress with bedding. That extra manure in the bed leads to a dirty udder and mastitis. So now let's take away side lunging and let the cows lunge forward and make them a great forward lunge, but lay straight in their beds instead of laying diagonal. And that'll get you a cleaner cow, a lower cell count, and more milk.
So you're saying then on the cows on the outside, what's the best way to modify that? If you only had side lunge, then what do you basically just bring it in and just make sure it's a little bit different dimension or change where your brisket board is? How do you make that happen?
If you've got side lunge on an outside wall, we have to have that, especially with a short bed. So don't take away side lunge on an outside bed. The opportunity is many, many dairies now as we go to 110, 120 cow rotaries with 600 cows in a pen. We've got 3-row pens. Those pens, as they stack the pens, there's no real walls. There's face-to-face stalls. And in those face-to-face stalls that we're building forward, make it so they can lunge forward and not lunge sideways. That's all. I want you to take away the side lunge, but never, never, never take away the side lunge if you have an obstructed forward lunge. Instead, make sure the cow can lunge forward. Once she can lunge forward, take away her side lunge, and then that cow will lay very square in the bed. And if she lays square, her tail is in the back. Take away the side lunge from a forward lunging cow. Don't let her lunge sideways as long as she can lunge forward. Against the wall, 1/3 of old buildings might be against the wall. Don't take away that side lunge.
I guess in cross-ventilated freestall barns, there probably isn't. I mean, I guess in most of those designs, you can totally eliminate the sides of the barns and the walls being a problem because you have either a space for fans or a pass-through. So I guess in those particular cases, you can really anchor down and just get the stalls correct the whole way through a facility like that.
Right. And a lot of our new facilities, I spoke of this at NMC, are putting in the dog bone loops. I don't have a picture of the dog bone loop and you don't, but the dog bone loop allows forward lunge and side lunge. So the dog bone loops are not my favorite loop. I would prefer a loop that only allows the cow to lay square in her bed. That'll make a cleaner cow and over time lower cell count, lower hospital, and get more milk. If we increase laying down time immediately, we get milk today, we get milk tomorrow. If we have a cleaner cow, we get less mastitis, lower cell counts, and we get more milk over time. So both of those add to production and performance.
Yeah, I know there's so many different styles of loops, and I've seen things get hyped up pretty, the Freedom, all these different versions. And styles, and I've seen the dog bone, obviously walking through some larger facilities that I've seen them switch it. I've seen them just go to that in a brand new facility, and they were interesting at first looking at it, and I was wondering, wow, am I missing something here? Like, why is this becoming popular? But then as time has marched on, not fast forward, but move forward 10, 15 years, and I think that there is something to be said about what you're coming back to and re-emphasizing as far as lying straight and eliminating more of the side movement for sure. So it's interesting how things come full circle. Yeah. Making changes with the environment can get you a quick response, or you can see a quick change. I guess, is there anything there that you'd want to elaborate on, or a really good example of something that you have seen that just rises to the top as far as an immediate change, just even with the environment. It might not even be the stall. It might just even be the environment of the facility and something that was changed that wasn't working so well, and you made an improvement there and got an instant result.
Well, the instant results for me are if we get one more bite of dry matter intake. We're in a last bite business. The dairyman, the most profitable bite of food a cow can take is the last bite. So if I can get anything to make a cow eat another bite of dry matter intake, I'll get more milk. And if I can get another hour, another minute of laying down time, I'll get more milk. So fixing beds and fixing access to beds. So as we look at old freestalls, particularly 6-row barns or tail-to-tail barns in the Midwest up in Wisconsin, those barns, a tail-to-tail barn in Wisconsin, the 200, 300, 400 cow dairies that still have them, have a crossover that 100% of the cows have to go in the back to get to bed and then get to feed. If we make those crossovers bigger so cows can get to feed and get to bed, time in bed and extra bites of intake, and don't have an obstruction to that. As I look at other things, the immediate things that make more milk are more time in bed, better digestion from time in bed, and another bite of dry matter intake. So as you feed cows, I want to remind people that cows are crepuscular. Crepuscular means they're dawn dusk creatures. The ancient cow, if you will, thousands of years ago, would go out at dawn, at early light, avoiding the big cats at night that would feed on cows and hunt cows, and avoiding man in the daytime. They would go out at dawn, she would eat, and then she would boogie back to safety, lay down, and literally barf her food up again and chew it and watch for predators. We've underfed our cows in the morning. So if you want to do something on your dairy that's not physical, not fix a bed, take out a lunge obstruction, do something like that, but give 60% of their total dry matter intake at first meal at exit from parlor. So those of you feeding 50% of your herd, particularly in headlocks, you're underfeeding the highest cow in your herd that wants to eat more. So I want you to deliver 60% of their dry matter intake at exit from parlor. You'll get a boost in production, a boost in dry matter intake, and then take her back to a great bed, lay her down, and you're in great shape.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be the best life she can have if she has, all the best food, and then she has a nice clean bed, a comfortable bed to go back to. I don't think they're really looking for much more. Maybe a little bit of socialization, but I mean, that to me sounds perfect. And I know I covered this before in other podcasts, but we know right now there's a lot of overstocking. Where facilities are definitely pushed to the seams right now, whether dairies are just getting ready to expand because of the beef market. A lot of things are going on, and holding on to some, heifers. But you can't, I don't think there's really anything you can do to overcome some of this crowding, stocking up on cows. A lot of things have to change with all of those things that you decide to do when adding more animals to a pen. A lot of things have to change. The feeding has to change. Your manure system is going to change. There's going to be more manure. The bedding schedules need to change. The cows are going to be using the stalls harder. They're going to be maybe even challenged to find a stall space. So there's going to be more movement of sand in and out of the stalls because more cows are, bumping other cows out. So is there anything there you've seen lately that, aha moments on the overstocking, overcrowding, or just having more animals in a pen that could help with the overall comfort and maintaining the quality that the dairymen want from the cows?
I've been in the dairy industry long enough that we've gone through a buyout and 2 diversions, and it's funny, every time the buyouts and diversions happen, people have signed up for a 10% diversion in milk, and they got rid of their first 10% of cows and went up in production. So yeah, overcrowding certainly reduces time at bunk, reduces time in bed, and has a cost, and it has a stress cost. Dr. Rick Grant again, presented the information that we get better digestion in bed. and the average herd is getting 12 to 13 to 14 hours. The really high producing herds, the herds above 100 pounds of milk, above 45 liters for the rest of the world out there, those herds are getting 14 to 16 hours of bedtime. So I have a target, if you will, particularly in the pre-fresh group and in the fresh group, but a target of no more than 12% overcrowding across any group. And if you start to overcrowd, I've done it on herds that are at 20, 30% overcrowding. We've been able to take 10 or 20 cows out. If a herd's that overcrowded, then my efforts with that herd are to show them the cost of overcrowding. And that is, I'll take 10 or 20 cows out of a 20% overcrowded pen, move them somewhere else on the dairy because he obviously allows overcrowding, and that pen within 3 days will make the same amount of milk with 20 cows removed. And suddenly you start to realize you've been feeding 20 extra cows who are making extra manure, eating extra dry matter simply to stay alive, maintenance, and that has a cost of production. So overcrowding has a cost of production, and the one time that it's really necessary in dairy herds are as we go to expand, we certainly need to have cows ready to fill the new environment. So that's the one time I sort of give them a free pass on overcrowding. Otherwise, it's a 10 to 12% overcrowding, and keep it down.
When you were managing your dairy in Wisconsin, I'm just going to come back to freestall management for a second. What were some of those practices, if you can recall, like how often were you bedding? What was your expectation there for your employees? And how did you maintain that? How did you keep control of that it was always up to snuff, like it was meeting your expectation?
Well, the beauty is we had a wonderful team of people, and in the winter I bed 2 to 3 times a week because we were often putting wet sand in and we were worried about it freezing, so we made sure it was level. In the summer, we could reduce to once or twice a week, but one of the signals in our dairy was the brisket board was a true brisket board at our dairy, and it was 2 inches higher than the back curb. And I never wanted to see the brisket board. So there was team meetings about if the brisket board showed up as we did our daily walkthrough on the dairy, then we would put another load of bedding in. So we wanted the cows to feel that the brisket board was there, hidden in the bedding, but never visible. And in fact, I was on dairies in the last month, and the one simple thing that I had them do was fill the beds to over full, if you will. I want cows to be on the bed, not in the bed. So when that curb is lower and the sand is lower or the deep bedding is lower than the curb, the cow now measures from the back of the curb, from inside the curb to whatever obstruction is forward. And instead, if we overfill that bedding so she's on top of the bed, she'll lay down more. And those were the requirements at our dairy. And we had a really good team that just fulfilled it. They understood the need, they understood the why, and then they performed.
Yeah, no, I love hearing those types of, just everybody has a little bit different take on it. And I think that when we look at that picture perfect of what that stall is supposed to look like, or at least some people have this vision of what it's supposed to be or what you want it to be. But then when you actually walk through the facilities, it's not really there. And some of them are doing a great job. Some of them just that, everyone's on top of it. Like you said, your team's on top of it. They know the expectation. So every day there's, in some of these facilities might need to go in and actually bed every third day or every other day just to keep that where you're saying, to keep that level in that stall. But I think it's definitely spot on. Where you see the most success is that the stalls are just well kept and you don't see the valleys, you don't see them, you don't see sand well below the back of the curb, like 2 or 3 inches. That would be pretty bad. We see more focus on what does that routine need to be to keep those stalls full. And it might mean getting in there and taking sand in there every other day or every 3 days instead of once a week.
So the more awkward the stall is, if there's a lunge obstruction, if there's the neck rail's not in the right place, the harder it is for a cow to lay down, the more sand, the more bedding comes out of the free stall. So those stalls that have the wrong dimensions, if you will, or a lunge obstruction or some other problem, those certainly use more bedding and need to be bedded way more often than those that truly the cow can take command of the stall. She can lay down easily and go. So as it's starting to warm up right now, but as we look across the U.S., if you're looking at your standing cows, this is a number I want you to take home in your mind. If your cows are standing and more than 15% of the cows are perching, that is 2 feet in the stall and 2 feet out. If more than 15% of the cows are perching in your freestall, your neck rail is not allowing the cow to get into the bed. So more than 15% of the cows perching at this time of year. As we approach and get above 70 degrees, cows will start to perch just to increase their respiration as we come into heat stress, and so that number's not as critical. You'll get more perching in the summer even if the stalls are perfect, because some of the cows under heat stress will stand elevated, if you will, so that breathing is easier and the rumen is removed away from their lungs. But at this time of year, if more than 15% of your standing cows in the free stalls are perching, you need to move your neck rail forward. So that's a real take-home for across the world.
Across the world. Well, I really thank you for everything that you've been able to provide and your experience. I love listening to the stories. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we conclude today?
No, I can't think of anything else other than fill your beds. Fill the cow up, lay them down, and get a great bed. So it's stand to milk, stand to eat, and go to bed. And if she can get to bed and if she can get to food and she has a great bed, you're going to make more milk.
It doesn't matter what breed it is. You'll still make more milk.
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Great to see you again, Renee. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to Happy Healthy Cows. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite listening app and follow Happy Healthy Cows on Instagram and TikTok for more educational cow content. And here's to happy, healthier cows.
Amen.